Hey guys, this is Dan with Gears and Gadgets. Thanks for tuning in. Today I'm starting this video out in the studio and we're going to be talking about performance relative to my 2021 Ford F-150 PowerBoost. I've started a bit of a build series here on the channel, and the reason why I'm starting this in the studio versus in the garage is because in this video we're going to be talking about cold air intakes, miles per gallon, intercoolers, blow-off valves, exhausts. Now I drove, I want to say 470 miles total around Phoenix on 5 different trips to test miles per gallon, and I'll get into those results towards the end of this video. The PowerBoost is a very unique powertrain because it does have an electric motor sandwiched between the transmission and the internal combustion, which is a twin-turbo V6. That is the setup, and what's interesting when you're driving, when you're going down the highway at speed, call it 70, 75 miles an hour, you're never running just on electric. The motor doesn't have enough to run the vehicle on its own that way. But what you'll notice is it does take power from the motor and also combines it with power from the electric power unit. So my thought process with the cold air intakes is that the more air you can pull through efficiently into the motor without getting into the turbos allows it to pull more from the battery and combine those two power units and hopefully eventually save on fuel. So with that, that's kind of where I set off on trying to figure out what these cold air intakes or air filters can do. With that, let's throw it out to the road and talk more about the blow-off valve and intercooler and how that stuff comes into play. What I've done for performance with this vehicle, yes, I did a cold air intake. I also added in an aftermarket intercooler, which the intercoolers on this truck for the turbos are just air-to-air. So the problem you end up running into with the intercooler that comes on the truck is it does tend to heat soak. You notice that with the power delivery. Obviously, the idea with any motor is to put the coolest air you can into the cylinders for combustion. It'll make more power that way. So when your intercooler heat soaks, it loses all of that power. So I did upgrade the intercooler to a much larger intercooler solution that allows the truck to basically maintain easier. That was, in my opinion, one of the bigger, less flashy things to upgrade that you probably don't even feel on a day-to-day basis, but ultimately will make the truck run more efficiently, and that's kind of the name of the game in terms of creating power. Next, in that same, I guess, installation, I also purchased a blow-off valve, and the blow-off valve, again, is one of those things that you're not going to notice a power difference per se, but you are going to change the dynamics of the truck. A lot of people that are looking at maybe considering going with a PowerBoost or a hybrid pickup truck, or switching from a V8, which I did myself, right off the bat you miss that V8 rumble. Part of the problem you run into with a V6 is losing that feeling. So sure, you're gaining all kinds of power gains, and all together it's a better system pretty much all around. Power, miles per gallon, everything improves, but you just lose a certain feeling. And part of the reason why I upgraded the blow-off valve, it gives a little additional feeling back into the truck that helps you appreciate what it is, the turbo concession, which isn't really a concession. It lets you feel some of that back. When you get on the gas and let off, you can actually hear a faint sound from the blow-off valve. It's something that I think is more of just a preferential modification to the vehicle. I don't think you're really gaining a whole lot of performance, but I have heard that the OEM solution, which is a plastic blow-off valve, is known to fail. So this one being basically a billet construction, the way I understand it, it is far more durable to everyday wear and tear. So one of the complaints that I would have about a truck like this coming from a V8 is missing that V8 sound. But there's also a beauty in that turbo as well. I like to hear that blow off. I mean, honestly, it's just something that I think adds character to the vehicle in a similar but obviously different way to what a V8 would, with that V8 rumble. you're getting a little bit more of like that visceral feeling. Now with the hybrid, you don't want to be adding exhausts and those things, and honestly V6 exhausts, I've really never heard one that sounded great. The latest Raptor with the trombone pipe is probably the best sounding until you start getting into like supercar territory, but aside from that, you're really losing a lot of potential with exhaust when you go to the V6. So I found a way to give yourself a little bit of that feeling back is through that blow-off valve. Now I want to go back to the studio and talk about numbers because, well, I'm driving and, you know, going through a whole bunch of list of numbers and performance changes. Probably not the smartest thing in the world to do. So I do want to get back and talk about what I found with miles per gallon with the cold air intake, and also 0 to 60 times. So back here in the studio, we'll get into what I'm sure everybody here wants to know. With this PowerBoost, what did I get for miles per gallon with the cold air intake setups? And also what were the 0 to 60 times, and we'll unravel all of that now. First of all, I did use premium fuel for all of the tests. I tried to keep everything the same. Temperatures, they were all run around 100 to 105 degrees. I did use the same gas station, same gas pumps, and I would also do a click and count down to 5 and then another click to make sure that it was full. So trying to keep all things the same the best I can in these tests, and I also ran them all at 75 miles an hour. Every one of these tests came in around an hour 20 to an hour 22 in that range, so they were very, very consistent. I'm very happy with those results. Over the course of the life of this truck, Fuely, which is an app that I use to actually track my fuel ups and gas mileage, is 17.8. That's the real number. That's what the truck has got. Now, these things are marketed 24 city, 24 highway, and I see people all over the place really confused about why they're not getting these numbers. And truth be told, if you drive city and you're super cautious and you feather the pedal and you play with the way that this whole EV works with the hybrid, you can get way over 24. And if you're cruise controlled 85 miles an hour on the highway, you're going to get way under 24. It's just kind of the way that this all works. But what I've experienced with this truck is around that 18 MPG range. So what I did for this test was I had a K&N air filter in the truck originally. I removed it, swapped it over to the paper air filter to run my first test. The first test that I ran came back at 18.2 MPG. So right off the bat, going to paper, I actually got better than what my average for 17,000 miles was, which was a 17.8. Now, do not take that as the K&N getting worse, because my driving habits have also wildly changed in recent times, switching from working in an office, which was all the way across town, all highway driving, to now I'm just around town, slow speeds, probably getting better efficiency out of the hybrid. I would not compare the paper and the K&N, those two numbers together. What I am interested in is the cold air intakes, which this is the Corsa. Now, I would not recommend Corsa. This says it fits for a PowerBoost. I do not agree. And the reason why I say this is the Corsa, the first run that I got was 21.31 MPG. And you would say, wow, that's pretty incredible. Huge increase. It was, however, the inlet tube here actually disconnected because the box itself mounts rigidly to the inside of the fender, and there is no accordion boot that connects the tube to the airbox. So naturally, the motor has a bit of flex in it. So after I got back, I took a closer look at Corsa, and I don't like it because there's not a nub that holds the clamp over top of the tube. So typically with these intakes, you would clamp down and there would be a little lip that once you tighten that clamp down, it cannot pass by that lip. It has it on the air cleaner box side, but it does not have it on the tube side. When you look at the injection molding, it does kind of come down a little bit, but the rubber connector hose itself isn't long enough to get the clamp over that side. And honestly, it's really not designed, I don't believe, to be that way anyway. So when I got back to the gas station, this tube right here was straight up disconnected from the airbox, and I was running that entire test with no air filter. Not good for the turbos. I would not recommend it. I'm happy that I have the results. Not super happy that it was with my truck that I got those results, because 21.31 MPG is what I would say at 75 miles an hour for 90 miles is what you would get running no air filter. So that's, I guess, the best you can do, and I would not recommend it. When I came back and saw that it was disconnected right away, I almost considered just going back to the factory airbox, probably just going back to paper. But for the sake of YouTube and sticking with this video series, I went right away and I ordered the Ford Performance version so I could carry on testing. So when I got home, I did reconnect the airbox and decided to run the test again for the sake of this video. 90 miles around, and I got 19.75 MPG for the results with this staying connected. Wasn't going to keep it long term, but again, 19.75 is better than the 18.2 that I got with the paper. Going to the Ford Performance, I had another bad test. I ran that around and I only got 17.9 on the first one. Now that test where I got 17.9, I had my father in the car, which is not normally with me on these tests. He was in town and I just decided to take him on a loop to show him around the entire city of Phoenix. So that was already going against the truck with a little bit of added weight with another passenger. It was also around a time when we had some storms coming in every day. There was like a monsoon storm coming through. There were some high winds, and that is obviously going to drastically affect your fuel mileage. So when I came back 17.9, I'm like, yeah, that ain't gonna cut it. Now, not only did I have those two things going against me, but I also, with the Ford Performance airbox, there is or was a bunch of significantly large openings around between the box and the air tube, where it was like a half-inch gap. So theoretically, it was sucking in warmer air from the engine compartment into the airbox, and I didn't like that, so I bought some high-temp silicone, sealed off all of the openings so that now the airbox is only pulling in air from the front of the air intake, and there is still two drain holes, small drain holes at the bottom of the airbox, so that was changed as well. I waited a couple days and had time to run the test again, where I ran it with just myself, tests the same with Corsa when it was connected, and the same with the paper air filter when that was ran as well. Coming back, that test result, 19.75. Identical to the Corsa, and that is the air box that I'm going to stick with. So all in, 19.75 compared to the 18.2 MPG that I got with the paper filter. Those are the results. Now getting into 0 to 60 times. I ran these 0 to 60 times very unofficially. It was 104 degrees when I ran the first test. It was 98 degrees when I ran the second test. Pretty similar in terms of temperatures. Remember, this truck, I'm 1,000 feet above sea level. I've got aftermarket wheels and tires, an extra 20 pounds of unsprung weight on this truck in terms of 20 pounds per wheel and tire on this truck. 0 to 60 times. Running it with the paper air filter, I got 6.86 seconds. Running it with the cold air intake, I got 6.71. So just over a tenth of a second. So does this matter at all on the highway or anything you're going to feel? Not at all. Obviously, that's not a huge difference. This truck, again, the 570 foot-pounds of torque, you feel every bit of that when you're driving, whether or not you have a cold air intake or not. So would I do it all again? Absolutely. With the cold air intakes, my takeaway with all of this in terms of blow-off valve, cold air intake, getting some of that character back that you're losing out of the losing a V8 and some of that feeling that you get out of the vehicle. Now I'm trying to get more sound out of the motor when I can out of the V6 and hearing those turbos through the blow-off valves and just getting a little more personality out of it. The intercooler, again, that's a part that it helps in the grand scheme of things in terms of heat soaking. Not going to feel it in day-to-day driving for the most part, but you will probably not even know you're feeling the results of it when you are either hauling heavy payload, towing a trailer, going up some extreme grades where you're really getting into those turbos and keeping them maintained for a long duration. So in terms of payback, the way that I've calculated this out, with fuel prices being $4.54 about, it would take me approximately 23,500 miles to recover my expense for one air cleaner. So basically 2 years. Because of this Corsa fiasco, probably 4 years. So that is going to wrap my performance video on my Ford F-150 PowerBoost. I thank you guys for the support. If this is your first time tuning in, please remember, likes go a long way to help support the channel. Hit that subscribe button down below, and I will see you guys next time.